Yes.
Before we go into some of the issues facing this country, let me just quickly take you on the events, the post-election events and some of the violence that we saw in 2011, which some statement attributed to General Buhari of the blood of dogs and baboons and all of that, which some people say were the cause of some of the violence, where we saw core members died, we saw INEC officials being treated badly, and citizens lose their lives. What's your take on that? Because a lot of Nigerians are still grieving over that particular incident.
Frankly, I think that it is completely unfair to hold General Buhari responsible for the violence that took place immediately after those elections. I think that's unfair. And really, it's like holding one person. Look at violence, political violence, generally speaking, everywhere in the country. There was political violence during the elections in Ondo in 1983, a lot of violence. Prior to that, there's been political violence in various places. It is difficult for anyone, and I haven't heard that any one person was held responsible for that violence, or that any one statement sometime was held responsible for that violence. I think that those who try to hold General Buhari responsible for that violence have purposes that they want to serve, obviously purely political purposes. I don't think that is fair to say that it was some comment that he made or did not make, a comment that even in context he has denied several times and has, you know, I think is unfair. I think that very many times what happens in cases where people feel cheated, or if people feel that their wishes were not reflected electorally, we've found, you know, spontaneous violence in many parts of the country, many parts of Nigeria. And at no time have I heard that one single politician or any one person was held responsible for that. General Buhari, I recall at that time in 2011, made a statement, even when all of this violence was going on, made a statement calling for the end to that violence. He made a clear statement saying that he did not support any of this violence and called for an end to that violence. I think that that's what any responsible statesman would do, any responsible person would do, you know. But I don't think that it's fair to say that he instigated the violence. I think that's very unfair.
All right. The president on the New Year's Day made some very firm statements as regarding utterances of politicians that could be divisive and inciting. And we've seen some people, I mean, even the DSS, the Department of State Security, has also said that they will not spare anything in making sure that they bring to book anybody found wanting. The statement that I read earlier on attributed to the chairman of your party, saying they're going to form a parallel government.
Yes.
What do you make of it?
Well, that is a position.
Do you see it as inciting?
I don't think so. I don't think it's inciting. Why is that inciting? There's nothing that incites about that. I don't think that that would necessarily lead anyone to violence or lead anyone to do anything.
Forming a parallel government, that's not calling for anarchy.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
But it could be.
No, not necessarily. Look at cases. Look at cases. Let's look at political history. Look at cases where persons, where the government, for instance, has decided on where the government decides that they're going to ignore the wishes of the electorate and simply override the wishes of the electorate. What the opposition has usually done in such cases is to reject the results of the elections and to say that they will constitute their own government, that they will constitute a government. That is simply a way of taking a stand. It simply is taking a stand against the government and putting the government under pressure. That has happened in several places in Africa, several places in the world, where people have said, on account of electoral injustice, they are going to do certain things and all of that. And if they do so, so long as they do not say, so long as they do not call anyone to violence, all they're saying is that we are also going to constitute ourselves into a government. If you fail if you are unjust, or if you ignore the wishes of the electorate. Personally, I don't think that that's necessarily inciting.
Because, I mean, the fabric of a national life is very tense now.
Yes.
And one is looking at the fact that little statements could spark any form of reaction or violence anywhere.
Yes. Yes.
And one will be thinking that in places around the world where we have seen people call for parallel government has been met with resistance which had led to violence in some places.
What?
If we are learning from politics outside the country, we should also learn some of the get a takeaway from some of the implications of some statements.
No, I agree, but I don't think it's inciting. I don't think that necessarily is inciting. I think that how does that in any way call for violence? You know, because if you say it's inciting, it means that people out there on the streets will now begin to react in a particular way or begin to be violent or any such thing. I don't think so. I don't think that's inciting. I think what is inciting is where government tries to introduce division, where, for example, the kinds of statements that are made, and if you look at some of the statements that are made, statements intended to divide the country, where you accuse the opposition of being responsible for insurgency, where you accuse the opposition of being of attempting to Islamize and things like that, where you accuse the opposition of religious bigotry and those kinds of statements. Those are the statements that are inciting. Those are the kinds of statements that can cause division and cause crisis. And that is really, and I would respectfully ask that the president emphasizes that message to his party, to the PDP, because several of the statements that they make on a regular basis tend to be inciting, you know, especially those statements that tend to spur religious division or spur divisiveness, ethnic divisiveness, and all of those kinds of things. I think that those are the kinds of statements that are inciting.
All right.
Yes.
Now, we'll take a moment here on the program, and when we return, the APC vice presidential election, where the APC vice presidential candidate will be talking to me about his party's chances at the polls. Join us again.